Feneck. I am the CEO and founder of Juvenile Justice Impact, and we have such an incredible show this evening. We have Cindy Birkeland, we have Caitlin Draper, we have Natalie Mori, and we are going to be talking about financial planning, some difficulties that she's overcome, and she's also going to be talking about how she's going to be helping youth at some of our workshops. And she's done so much, and we're going to hear and listen to her, and hopefully we can be inspired and learn and be educated and healed and everything that we had the most incredible conversation right before we started rolling, and let's continue it right now.
Awesome.
Cindy, let's just jump into where we left off. I mean, we were speaking about everything. I wish we would have been recording, actually.
No, seriously, this is what happens. I swear to God, I feel like we should start the podcast over in the kitchen.
Right.
Because, everyone's always, talking in the kitchen, and then we come over here, and it's like, it's like...
What were we just talking about?
Yeah,
let's just start from the beginning. So what is it that you do, Cindy, and why are you wanting to contribute to Juvenile Justice Impact on our podcast to spread awareness to not only Las Vegas, but nationwide, because that's where we're going?
Well, I believe that almost every problem that we have in whether we live in America or we live in Cuba or anywhere, the problem always comes from not having enough money. So when people ask me what I do, I pretty much do anything that has to do with money. So I'm in the financial planning business, which means I use products like life insurance products, annuities. I have premium financing for those that qualify. I'm also in the mortgage business, so I might have to do a refinance or help someone with a purchase. But mortgage planning is just as important as financial planning. It all goes together. So I've been fortunate to where I just, when it comes to things like money or planning things out long term, I have a very unique gift, and that's to see from the end instead of today. Most people live from today, and then they try to get to the end, and I work backwards. So it's been pretty amazing to see what we've been able to do with some of my clients, because we work from the end in mind. But what if we don't have enough money? Mm-hmm. And that's most people's problem. There was a survey done a couple of years ago, and I was listening to it on the radio, and the survey was something to this effect that they pulled 100 couples all over the United States, and the question was, what would you do if your washer and dryer broke down? And it was $400 to fix it, $600 to fix it. Most people said that they would have to borrow the money. And that just devastated me, that a $600 fix that you weren't expecting would cause you to have to borrow money or go to your friends and family or take out a loan or go finance a washer and a dryer. Is that the state of affairs in America? But it is for a lot of people. And I believe that if we can really get educated on money and understand what we need to do to have more of it, America and all these other countries would be such a different place to live. But we were talking about earlier in the kitchen was, like I say, I tell everyone, my parents taught me everything they knew about money. They just didn't know everything. Exactly. They taught me everything they knew. And to no fault of my parents either, their parents didn't know much. So unless you're in a very affluent family that,
or it's inherited,
yeah, you're born inherited, and you don't need to know about money. I believe that all of us need to be educated on money, and I believe it starts with kids.
And how did you become? Everyone has a story. So, some people ask me, how did you get involved in this or that, and what was your inspiration? So, what was your inspiration to become involved in this topic, to educate people on the topic of finances?
Well, I was one of those. I've always been a really hard worker, and from a teenager up until all my life, I've always had a second job. I'd work a job, get another job, get another job. If I needed more money, my solution was, well, just get another job. So I did this for many years, and I worked myself into the mortgage business, and I fell in love with the mortgage business, and I learned very quickly that, oh my gosh, I could make a lot of money in the mortgage business. And
how old were you when you started in the mortgage business?
I was 25.
Wow.
And became a self-made millionaire by the time I was 30.
By the time she was 30. So I was literally just telling Natalia.
Yeah.
She's 21 years old.
Oh, you can do anything.
Yeah.
Nothing
I'm excited. I know.
Nothing will stop you. If you determine that you want to do something, you get to do it.
There's
nothing stopping us but our brain.
Exactly.
So right.
And when
Mind
you're
over
getting
matter.
stuck, you fix your brain. You know,
And not to mention, we all just came from an afternoon with My Vegas magazine for the top 100 women of influence, and we met some of the most incredible women there, and everyone has a story of struggle, how they overcame it, and how they become who they are today. And we're just all so blessed to all really know each other. Now, you were also speaking, we're all going to go back to the kitchen. We got to go back to the kitchen. You were talking about your son and how he had some struggles and how you were trying to be supportive towards him and what he was doing, and then come to find out he met someone in the field. And
well, my son has, you know, I always raised my kids. They always were in the best schools. They had everything they ever needed, but my son got into trouble, and he ended up, I guess, I don't know if he literally had a drug charge, but he literally got in trouble in junior high, high school. And he was just really trying to find himself. And it was so devastating for me because I'm like, I did not raise you this way. What are you doing? And I think he was just really trying to fit in. But the long and the short of it, he got in trouble. Now he's fine. That situation is long past. But he has taken an interest in the business side of coming out of getting in trouble with drugs. Now he's in the business side. Now that the cannabis industry has become very regulated and very legal, he's like, Mom, I really would like to get into that industry, like in a cannabis lounge or whatever. Because I was telling him, I said, look, son, you can do whatever you want. Whatever you're passionate about, do it. And whatever you do, be good at it. You know? And so I said, just tell me what's your fire.
Right.
What is your fire? And then he says, I want to be in the cannabis industry. And I'm like, okay, well, it's legal now, so what can we do with that, right? And he was just in that space of creating. And I know that when we're doing something that we love and that we're passionate about, money always follows that, and usually lots of it. And think of Steve Jobs, like, as nerdy as he was so passionate about the Apple phone, and you know, look what's happened with Apple today, that he was following his passion and how wealthy he became. So I said to my son, you know, I'm listening to him and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you know, I want to support him with this. And literally, I had a friend walk into my house the next day and said, hey, I'm putting together a deal and it's going to be a cannabis lounge. And I just was like...
And she's like, wait a minute. This is not fun.
But, you know, that's just God in movement, God in motion.
Totally,
Like,
right?
when you put your needs out to God, he's like, I'm going to answer. You know, I was in such shock that that happens that fast.
And 2 or more people believe in one setting. Then
Absolutely. It totally does. And my son... I was like, hold on. And I ran upstairs and I got my son. I go, you need to meet my son. And it's just that fast. I've never seen my son move so quickly to get an application online, to get his cards done.
That's
he
hilarious.
is just moving at the speed of light right now. I'm like, wow, there's so much to be said about following your passion. But I'm totally clear that my kids are going to do well in life. And, as long as they're doing something legal, I'm all about it. I'm
Right.
there
Well,
to
especially
support
if they
them.
have you as a role model.
Well, and how many parents, though, don't support their kids? And this is where Susan and I had a conversation about, man, I believe every kid needs to have just kind of a blueprint to follow when it comes to money. And there's so many people that lack money knowledge. And it's really, really simple. Wealthy people never, don't ever not save 10% of their money every month.
Right.
You know, and this is what I teach in workshops. Like, if you only make $3,000 a month, a person that's wealthy, now they may not be wealthy today. And I say this, if you make $3,000 a month, and people go, that's not wealthy. And I'm like, but you will be. So that means before you do anything else, you take $300 and you put it into savings. So now you only have $2,700 to work with. Now, how are you spending your money? When you only have this much to spend, because people will typically spend everything that they have. Unless you say, before any bill gets paid, before anything happens, I pay me first. I'm number one in my life. Because when I'm 60 years old, 70 years old, you're not going to be paying my bills.
Right.
I have to. So I need to think from my future back to today. So I teach workshops on what really wealthy people do, because if you fast forward 30 years and you've been saving $300 a month, do the math. If it never made a drop of interest, you'd be looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in a savings account that your friend that's not saving money is now. They may have a nicer car than you, but guess what? You can go out and pay cash when you have hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So true.
So money, and here's the thing. This was a really big thing. I had a surge of clients come to me over the last 6 months. And what ended up happening, luck would have it, on my side of the fence, there was a lot of my clients that were being forced to get vaccinated to keep their jobs. And those of my clients that had money, had walking away money, they were like, you know what, I don't want to get vaccinated, so I'm leaving, goodbye. And those that didn't have money, what were their choices?
Right.
They either got vaccinated or lost their job. Now, if you don't have money in savings, do you really have time to go looking for another job? And then I had other clients that were coming to me and saying, we're not going to get vaccinated. And I know we were planning to retire me in 10 years, but can you do it in 10 weeks? And literally, we were pulling stuff off. And that was the beauty of having mortgage to back me up, having the mortgage industry, knowing what to do with their mortgage, knowing what to do with their savings accounts, moving money around. And it's been pretty amazing when I've had couples come to me and say, we have no hope. Like, how are we going to handle this? We don't want this for our family. And literally moving money around and creating a beautiful retirement package. But it all boils down to, when you have money, you have freedom. When you have money, you have power. I think that children need to learn this early, because why do you need to borrow money from family? Or what if you don't have family to borrow money from, or whatever? It's, I learned that really early on. My family had no money. So I had no backup plan. Like, if I got into trouble, there was not borrowing money in our family. So I had to figure it out. And eventually I started.
The goat.
Well, I really did. I started like reading books like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I became self-taught when it came to money.
Yes.
And I'd get another book and following what rich people do. I call it the greater pile principle. If you have a greater pile than me, I should probably listen to you. So I just started following people that I wanted to emulate and be like. So today I'm wanting to be that for others. Like, what do you need? Because I believe that children, they are truly our future. They are the ones that need to know this first.
Even at the last workshop, Silo Moses, who is a guest speaker at For the Love of Our Youth, Families in Our Community, he donated all of the books to the youth, Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, I love that.
And I just thought that was so great. I mean, he brought in some of the books that he actually had authored himself. However, what he did is we were all there,
expecting it.
Right, and he all handed out these books to the youth, and whether they opened it up that weekend or next weekend, or maybe they even open it up 5 years from now. They're going to have that. It was meant to be given to them. And they're going to look at it and learn a lot of lessons from it.
I try to read that book literally 4 times a year.
We talked about that at lunch.
I was telling Susan, I keep it in my purse. I don't have it with me right now, but I keep it with me.
It's all highlighted.
Like whenever it is so like the binder is broken, so I literally I buy like 4 of those books a year, and I go through them. And I like to hand them out to people too, but that is so powerful, because I look at that book as it's so amazing. I mean, it's just been amazing how it's affected my life.
So I have a question. Have you ever made like a vision board or written down your goals?
Yeah, all the time. So people used to make fun of me because they'd come through my house.
Yes.
And I have so many people over all the time, but I have my goals all over, and my vision board in my room above my fireplace. And
Mine's above my fireplace right now.
Do you have whiteboards?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh
so
my God.
Everything on Dr. Fenix's came real.
Yeah.
She's checkmarked them all off.
Real.
Yeah.
The first time I
So
met
make them
Susan,
bigger, and get them bigger, and keep adding more.
What is she
Yeah,
gonna say?
this first time I met Susan, I came into her house, and after she greeted me, one of the first things she told me was, "Look at my vision boards." And she showed me like literally an expo marker written on all the calendars, everything. She goes, "I've checked everything off that I've ever wanted." I was like, I'm in the right spot.
It's true.
No, seriously. So what I do is every year, like 2019, 2020, whatever, and then I like write down. There's probably you guys have seen them all.
Yeah, I mean, there was like
My
3
Vegas
of them.
magazine,
Yeah.
check mark.
There's probably about 20 goals that I have per year, and I feel as though if you're going to make a goal, make it realistic, make it attainable, make it within what you feel like you know that you can achieve. And I just, no matter what it was, and I always have this little line, like a little dash, and then when I achieve it, I make the check mark. And you guys have seen it. And if you can think it, you can do it. And you can find a way. Like the hardest part about going to the gym is getting there, right? And so if you want something bad enough, you figure it out. If you don't want something bad enough, you figure that out.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you will. And I think Jack Welch said it. They always asked him about work-life balance. And I'm like, no. He said there's no such thing as work-life balance. When we make a choice and we either want to work really hard and accomplish a lot of things, and every choice that we have has consequences.
Yeah.
And then you make a choice to sleep in and not go to the gym and eat McDonald's every day. There's a consequence. So when it comes to work-life balance and creating something you want, you got to do more than the average person. You got to do more than anybody else would,
Oprah Winfrey put it perfect. She goes, we all have the same 24 hours a day. What are you going to do with it? And I'll tell you right now, we were just having this conversation this afternoon at the luncheon. I was talking to Lee Jackson, and she's one of my closest friends, and she actually, you have to take time to recharge. She's like, we need to eat more healthy. You are what you eat. We need to rest. We need to we need to exercise. And we're not talking about you to go be a bodybuilder or whatever, but you need the time to take care of yourself. And I need to work on that.
I'm dying to say that.
I'll admit I need to work on that myself a little bit more.
I made Susan promise me last night that she's going to make a set bedtime this year and be selfish and have a set bedtime. My bedtime is 10 p.m.
Okay.
I leave Susan's house at 9:50.
Yeah.
I'm home by 10 p.m.
Yeah, I have
You
to.
have to set the boundary, though,
I don't know
to
how I'm
get
going
your
to do that. I
rest.
haven't been
But
to
that's-
bed before midnight since I was like a teenager.
Exactly. But see, I've been a part of the I truly have been a part of the 5 a.m. club since I was maybe 16 years old. I've been a part of the 5 a.m. club. All the way up into through my 20s, writing in my gratitude journals every morning, 5 a.m., listening to podcasts. And here I am at the 100 most influential women of Las Vegas, and I'm working with Dr. Susan Feneck. And I'm sitting here speaking to Cindy.
Love it.
Your imagination is your reality if you believe in yourself.
It really is.
Yeah, well, and it really, I believe that once we can master doing good habits, for me, it started with, I couldn't understand as a child why some people had more money than our family, but we all were really the same. We lived in the same community. We all seemed to be the same, and I was like, I have to find out why this is. What is the reason that my parents are really broke and other families aren't? And so for me, I just went on a quest to figure this out, and I was young and I didn't understand what was happening with me, but I was like, I'm not going to be like this.
Yes.
I'm not going to be poor.
Yes.
And I totally
have to figure
understand
this out.
because we look at all the Italians that we grew up with, and they had like, what does your dad do? Well, what time of the year are we talking about? No, seriously.
Right? Yeah.
During this time of the year, they do this. During this time of the year, all the Italians,
Yeah.
But they were working so hard, like every day, working all these jobs, and then there was the rich people up at the lake, and I was like, what are they doing different? I'm like, we're all, because we all saw everyone in our neighborhood working all these jobs and really working hard and being so dedicated to their families. But there was still that struggle.
So I remember still being, I think it would have been 1996, where I lived in Idaho. 2 hours away was the big city, Boise, right, the capital. My mama, she would score volleyball games and basketball games to save money so that my brother and I could go get brand new school clothes in August. And she would take all of the money that she would use and then take us to Boise, which is a 2-hour drive away, which is where I ended up living for 13 years. But she would actually work to score basketball, volleyball games, softball games to give us money.
What do you think it is? Do you
Well,
think
I
it's
think
just
it's, there has to be a desire. So, when you know there's no back door for you. So this is the difference between, I think, my generation. When I grew up, my parents were so broke that there was no extra money. Like we had a set amount for school clothes, like you said, that was set aside, but it was such a piddly amount. And I was like, I don't want to go to school. I was so embarrassed. I was like 12, 13, 14. So I would work 2 and 3 jobs. I would babysit all summer just to get enough money together and I would have the most amazing wardrobe as a 14-year-old because I worked. And
you understood the value of a dollar.
I understood because I worked for those clothes. Now my kids are like, I want to get a new pair of Jordans or a new pair of Vans or da-da. And I'm just like, yeah, let's go. So they don't understand
the value of a dollar.
They don't. And the thing is, when you come, I think this is where it's changing in America is our kids, like every generation is getting more and more used to things getting easier. I think overall. And when we don't appreciate how hard we have to work for something, we don't. But there also has to be desire. And that's what that book, Think and Grow Rich, talks about is like when you get a desire so strong and you don't give yourself a back door. He also talks about in the book, I think it was Napoleon, when he was taking over countries back in the day, they would come into other countries in by ship.
Because if you come in by ship, then you burn the ships. Because if you burn the ships, then
burn the ships because the guys that were getting out the ships, he didn't want them to have a back door. We're going to win this war. We're going to conquer this country. It's win or perish. So he burned the ships so that they were like, we have no other options because if we don't, we're dead. And these are the things that having a strong desire with no back door creates. Don't give yourself a back door. When you decide to do something, there's no back door.
Right. They always say too, like if you have a plan B, plan A won't work.
But the thing about it is I never went without. I had the best birthday parties. I had the best Christmases. We never went without. And even though we had a set dollar amount for school, I still remember going to Limited 2 when I was 13 and having the coolest shirts. But no, I never went without. My mama worked as much as she could to get the money for us, and she did it every year. And so I know what hard work is, and I know what a dollar is.
Well, and that's the huge difference. But now when we go back to a lot of kids that their parents have never had money, their parents wouldn't even know how to explain to them about money because nothing was explained to them.
How do you get through to a parent, like say for example with the workshop coming up, because they're a low socioeconomic status, and when you're in that mindset, it's hard to believe that you can be in a different mindset. So how do you change the mindset of someone who is, for example, going paycheck to paycheck, going to get the 2 for 1 at a fast food restaurant because they don't know the difference? How do you change the mindset?
Well, first I always I always tell people, people always say, well, we need to do a better job teaching our kids. If you only knew how many kids in our public school systems that are coming to school hungry every day. It's very hard to teach a child something when they're starving. Think of how
we get hangry,
right? How hard it is to, pay attention or do
reservations.
Something when you're starving, right?
We do have dinner reservations.
But think about this. Kids are coming into classrooms and they're hungry and now we're supposed to teach them something. So it's the same thing with these parents and there's so much need out there, and sometimes I feel like, okay, first we meet the need. We feed them. We make sure everybody's got something in their stomach, and then we begin to learn from that perspective. But, okay, how do we make sure this stays at home and all this stuff is going on? There's just so many different things that we don't know what a family is struggling for. This is why I started my nonprofit. Like when we were talking about helping children, one of my guys on my board was like, a lot of times people that come from this economic status, like their parents are usually single. Usually it's a single mom, and oftentimes her biggest challenge is she doesn't have a vehicle. So we meet that challenge. Like now she can get to and from work. She can work a good job. It might be the difference between working at 7-Eleven at a place right next to their house where they're walking versus having a car and being able to work anywhere, and now having a way different opportunity for work. So this is where we wanted to come in, and how do we meet the need of the family in its entirety, to where, wow, we've just changed their whole socioeconomic status just because they got a car. It's
Right.
the simplest of things, but to them, like, a car is
It's
everything.
not simple.
Just
Right.
like someone hands you a hand-me-down shirt, it's a brand new shirt to you, but to them it's old. You know?
And this is
Yeah.
where we're like, we have to think from a different perspective, and it all comes down to education and what can we do. There's so many people in the world that have money and so many people that don't, and how do we Robin Hood this thing together.
Speaking of the Healthy Minds too, like the Healthy Minds workshop that's coming up as well, I also feel that once you are an adult and once you truly like go through it, get pulled through everything, you just have to surrender. And then I think once you just surrender to everything and you believe in yourself, you follow the passions that you want, everything unfolds for you. And when you believe in yourself and you don't give up on yourself, that's when everything happens for you as well. So yes, there's the realistic part, but there's also the dreaming part that matters too.
Well, absolutely, and it all starts with that. There has to be a vision. Once you have your vision, you have to have the desire to accomplish it.
In my podcast, I told Susan, like King Solomon said, without a vision, the people perish.
Amen.
Right?
And we look at all the successful people out there, people that I have followed and listened to over the years, like Les Brown and stuff.
Yes.
He came from no money. Like,
he lived in abandoned buildings.
His goal was to take care of his mom. He was so passionate about that, and he did whatever it took to make that happen. And he didn't have the skills and know what to do, but he figured it out. He just step by step, like, I'm going to do this. And this is where your desire comes in. You got to have a desire to win and succeed, and that will keep you getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning when you'd rather sleep in, and like, I'm committed to
Cindy,
this and that.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's what Dr. Susan Feneck has done for 25 years. 25 years she's gotten up at 5 a.m., going to bed at midnight to do this for the juveniles that get into trouble, which are our youth that don't need to turn into the word juveniles, And Dr. Feneck has given 25 years of getting up at the 5 a.m. club, going to bed at the midnight just to make a difference. And 25 years, it's happening now, and it's unfolding now in divine time. And I always tell you, everything is divine timing. And you
It
always
totally
agree.
It
And
totally
here
is.
we are, and today was huge meeting all the women we met.
It was
Cindy,
so good.
you
It was
are
so good.
you are a boss. You are hashtag boss.
I love it.
But I just wanted to it all takes dedication, and she trusted in herself. She trusted in her beliefs, and she's making it happen.
Well,
and
she
she's
fights
gonna
for the
say-
underdog. That's
Yes.
why
Yeah. So
we're
she's
committed to helping
preventing-
each other. I'm like, this
Yes.
is amazing.
She's preventing crimes. She's preventing the underserved, the at-risk. She's doing everything, and it is not only in Las Vegas. We're global.
Wow. I'm so impressed.
She's such a giving person. Just get it out, embrace it.
I just, I don't know. I just feel that was my calling, and I've stuck with it, and I'm never going to get up, and that's my purpose in life. So
You're definitely making a difference, and Cindy knows you are too. That's why
tell
she's
us
here.
a little bit about your organization.
Yes.
To keep me from crying. Because I can feel her. I can feel
yeah.
I can feel Natalie going, no, no.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you, and everybody has a story on why something just triggers them. And I had a gal that had come to work for me, and she was transitioning. She was coming to work for me and transitioning out of Clark County, and her job at Clark County was literally to go behind the coroner's office and deal with someone had just passed away, and maybe they died in their home alone, and so she ended up going on a call, and the call she went on, husband had just killed the wife in front of their 9-year-old child. So in a moment, dad goes off to jail, mom goes off in a body bag, and now we have a 9-year-old that is an orphan. Yeah. And so now they've got to try to figure out what to do with this little guy. And So she was keeping me in touch because she would work for them a little bit and then come work for me a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what's going on with little guy? And she said, well, we just found out that he has family in Canada, and it's going to be $5,000 to adopt him. She said, our government is going to require them to pay $5,000 to adopt their. And I'm like, what? And I go, great, okay, $5,000, that's it? That's the only, okay, he can go be with his family. And I go, we'll just write a check. Like,
right.
Let's fix this problem. And then and then I find out, because I got called a couple of my friends, and they're like, hey, I'll cover the whole thing. Let's just do this. Well, then a week or two later, she's trying to find him. He's in the system. They don't know, he's protected now by the system. And then they find out his family doesn't want him. And it just devastated me. I could not even imagine and fathom this it bothered me so much. And I just was like, this cannot happen on my watch. Like, who's going to take care of this child? Now how long is he going to be in is he going to get foster care? Is he going to be in one of these, like St. Jude's Ranch, or what is going to happen to this little guy? And it drove me crazy. I'd lay in bed at night just thinking about him. And I'm like, how do I get involved? Like, I have to do more for kids. And so I created my 501c3. We're turning it into a foundation now, we've decided. And it's called Nevada's Giving. And I really want to support kids here in Nevada. Want to start with making sure Nevada's whole. Let's make this, let's get in there, dig in, and how can we help these kids? Whatever this looks like, right? And then I meet Susan, and I was like, oh my God, we can do so much together. And I just want to dig in and start with Nevada, and then however this goes, like, I'm open.
And then they could be a model.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we have to take care of our community first, so that we can take care of others.
Yeah.
And that's why we need support from everybody.
Yeah.
And we're getting it. We are, for sure. So
it's something that I cannot, the Bible always talks about too much is given, much is required. And I've been given so much, and that means I'm required to do more for others. And I intend to make good on my promises in that. I want to support, I want to give back. And I met you, Susan, and I was like, oh my God, this is a match made in heaven. Like, we're going to figure this out. This is good stuff, Yeah. And I told her, whatever you need, if you need me to come in and coach the kids, or, we'll write checks. We're going to.
You guys are going to save, we are going to save so many lives, future lives, and then breaking generational curses as well.
Yes.
Because all it takes is one person, and that's who had to come into fruition to then have all of us come together to change the world.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Because we were talking about that. Like, you can create generational wealth, or you can create generational poverty. And it all comes from education and changing your mindset. And most people do the same thing over and over, and that's what they've always done, and they don't know anything differently.
Right.
For me, growing up, it was like, I'm going to change this. I don't like this. I don't want to be a poor kid. And it's not that we were poor, but
there was always a struggle.
We were the working class poor.
Yeah.
Like, we were on the low end of the spectrum. Like, I was always the kid to get the last cool thing in the class. Everybody else in class had the really cool stuff, and I had the hand-me-downs. And I'm like, I don't want this for me.
See,
what
that's how I feel like I got the hustler out of my mama, because I never went without. But that's because she was always working. She was always working 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. My parents, they had a different approach. Like, they had enough. They were getting by, and I don't fault my parents. My dad had just said, I had a great family life in that my mom didn't work. My parents were together. My mom didn't work, but there would have been no reason for them to be that broke, but they made a decision for my mom to stay home and not work.
It's comfort.
Yeah. I had a great background. Don't get me wrong, but I wanted more out of life. I felt like, money brings more choices. It brings more opportunity. It brings power, and you can use that power in a good way. Can you bless other people with it? There's just so much that it brings. It can be the best thing ever or the worst thing ever.
It's like serving the masses. Like, what do? You can have someone who has, a lot of money, and they can have a choice, right? I mean, we all
have free will.
we all have choices, but we're using. I mean, we give Juvenile Justice Impact. We give back to the community. That's a choice that I made, you know, and I know that those choices have altered and changed the lives of so many youth in our community. So to me, you know, I go to bed at night thinking this is just so wonderful, you know, that I have so many people on the team, so many community leaders that have come together like yourself, everyone that we met today at the luncheon. It was just incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for you to now receive abundance from the universe for everything that you have given out. It's your turn.
Yeah.
It's time for the youth to win.
Yeah, and we're going to do that, and we'll definitely invite you to our Mind Your Money May. Mind Your Money May.
Yeah, I'm excited about that one.
And maybe we can put in a little bit of STEM, science, technology, math, and engineering. Maybe that could be like kind of our STEM money, you know, workshop, because I feel that it's critical. You know, it really is for kids for youth at a young age, or even some of the parents that are attending. Think about it, because, you know, a lot of them are in a different mindset, right? So we have a lot coming up with all of the workshops and the prevention programs that we have coming up, and thank you so much for wanting to be a part of that. How can we all get a hold of you? If someone wants to get a hold of you, do you have an email, a phone number, a website?
I'll just put everybody to the website because all my contact information is there. But you reach out to me, cindybirkland.com, Cindybirkland.com. And it's all on there.
I'm so excited we met you today, Cindy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's been an honor to meet you and just have a discussion in the kitchen with you, and then all of this. And so, thank you.
Yeah.
And then we also donate.
Yes.
You can go to impactjji.com. Please donate. Your donations make these workshops and everything that we're doing come to fruition and come together and keep things alive. And subscribe to Spreaker.com. And so that way you have the opportunity to get a notification for every time we have one of these incredible podcasts. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for we're all so blessed. Thank you for having this opportunity. I really am.
Let's go to dinner. Good night.